Hello, and today is the 18th of September 2017, which means it's time again for
This Week at TEGG!
Brought to you by me, Steve Bowden, and the Archmage, Ed Greenwood.
Hi there.
So Ed, we've been hearing a lot about Folklore, the Affliction recently.
As you should. Not only is there a stellar board game out, brought to you by Twinfire Games and Greenbrier Games, there's currently a novel written by yours truly, and a short story by Nicholas Fife, both in production.
Well, what got you interested in Folklore, the Affliction?
It's two creators, the fine gents who are Twinfire Games, and their enthusiasm for the game, plus the visually gorgeous board they crafted for the game. And when I found out that it was a board game that played a bit like a role-playing game, I had to know more.
What's your favorite Folklore monster?
Oh, I haven't got just one. I tend to be more partial to human-like and ghostly things that fly and so on. The spooky rather than the fangs and talons brigade. But if I had to pick one right now, I'd probably lean towards the hands of death. Pale, rotting hands that reach up out of the ground to grab at the living. But, you know, go to the Folklore the Affliction Kickstarter page and see all the cool miniatures in the game for yourself. Some of the monsters are truly spectacular.
So you're interested in more than role-playing games. You like board games too.
Oh, I've always liked board games, especially if the board is, graphically stunning, because I can feel as if I'm in an imaginary place, and I can see other imaginary places nearby, and their relationships to each other become important and interesting.
So, what makes Folklore different from standard fantasy?
Well, think of Hansel and Gretel and a vast, grim, dark forest, full of the feel of lurking evil, of you being watched. So we're in folklore, fairy tales, ghost story territory. Scary, but it's a different scary than most. This is a almost family-friendly scary, if I can say that, in that it's without a lot of bare flesh or gore. It's about being scared, not grossed out. Now, think of just plain folks, farmers and peddlers and local shopkeepers, standing up to the evil that comes for them in the night, fighting to keep it at bay or vanquish it. That's a struggle I can believe in and buy into. The standard fantasy approach has been to bring on dark gods or horrific monsters and have shining heroes hack at them. Folklore gives the little guy and gal a chance to be the savior or defender.
It's loosely based on actual folk tales. What's a favorite one of yours?
Ooh, again, it's really hard for me to pick favorites, but I'm a sucker for ghostly knights who pursue evil from beyond the grave, but want the living to do something they left unfinished so they can rest at last. I'm also interested in haunted objects that keep appearing out of nowhere in people's lives, luring them into adventures or doing what needs to be done. So, Steve, what's one of your favorite folktales?
Well, it's a more recent folktale, and it's Mothman, who is from the American Northeast, and he puts terror into the hearts of people and sweaters. Oh, and with that said, if you want to know more about what TEGG is doing in Folklore, you might sign up for the link below, and you would get your Folklore short story for free when it comes out. Which brings us to Storm Talons. I know you probably get tired of answering this, but what makes Storm Talons different from other epic fantasy realms?
Here I go. Imagine a vast medieval come Renaissance era fantasy setting, rich in intrigue and politics, full of dragons and wizards and knights and pirates. But unlike the Lord of the Rings or the Forgotten Realms, it's dangerous to use magic in public. So just plain folks and wandering swordsmen who aren't as mighty as a certain Conan the Barbarian get to have their adventures while we watch. At the same time, magical mists known as the Storm Talons transform the lands they cover and the creatures they swallow, and they're on the move. Moreover, the legendary sleeping dragons, far mightier in magic than any human, are stirring, perhaps to awaken at last. And if they do, the entire status quo in the world of Asmer that everybody knows will be shattered, perhaps overnight, and everything will be changed. So it's an exciting time to be alive, and a whole bunch of writers are looking over the shoulders of many different characters, living out their lives and telling us their tales.
So then what is your favorite thing about Storm Talons? A character, an aspect of the setting, a location?
My favorite aspect is making the whole world seem alive, full of intrigues and strife and odd news, rather than it being a lifeless backdrop or rushing towards a single destiny told in a single epic storyline. My favorite place, so far, is the pirate port of Tantalus, a seedy, dirty, nigh lawless place where outlaws and outcasts run to. And the scum of 3 continents live, if they don't live in Cordrove or similar less than nice communities, that is, but we'll soon be seeing more of other places you can fall in love with. And my favorite character you haven't even seen yet, so I'll keep that entity under my hat for now, except to say that it won't be a long-bearded wizard, or a Conan clone, or anything too familiar to fantasy fans. What'll be a lot more important is whoever the readers choose as their favorite.
Can you give us a rundown of what happens in the first Storm Talons novel, Words of Unbinding, and where you intend for it to go from there?
Ooh boy. Okay, here we go again. Well, in Tantalus, we meet and look over the shoulder of a young woman who lives with and works for an old, wise, sharp-tongued, and rather mysterious woman. The young woman fetches food and spies and runs errands, and the old woman provides lore people desperately want to know that they pay handsomely to find out. And this wise old woman seems to have a reputation, and all sorts of strange, creepy people from far away in the world come to see her as danger builds. And a colorful character best known as Tavern, because he's usually to be found drinking in taverns in Tantalus, lurks ever closer. And then sudden violence touches off a journey and wild adventure and leaves the young woman running hard, trying to stay alive and trying to decide whom everyone she meets really is and wants and will try to do to her. And from this launch novel, I intend Storm Talons to unfurl like a rich tapestry in novels and novelettes and short stories by many, many writers that explore different corners of the world. My own later books will be among them and will slowly reveal in tidbits and tantalizing hints more and more about the Hierophar, that's the tyrant archwizard who's trying to rule the world, and his schemes, and the plots of those who work against him from the shadows. Warning, all is not what it seems, of course.
Of course. And what was your inspiration for the myths?
Over 50 years ago, long before anything called role-playing games had been thought of, my father drove us home from grandparents in a ground fog so thick that caught us partway home, or he'd probably never have begun the journey, that he sent me, the oldest child, out to walk ahead along the edge of the road with a flashlight, so he could keep the car on the road and not drive off into the ditch. Years later, my wife and I got caught in a similar fog while taking our boat home from our water access only cottage and almost got really lost. In both cases, I had dreams the night after of walking in thick fogs and having men with swords and scaly monsters and faceless men looming suddenly out of them at me, and I thought this would be a very cool way for outlaws and monsters to hide, for desperate folk to escape into or hide treasure in. And if the mist could transform the landscape and roll forward to swallow more of it up, or recede to reveal more of it, wouldn't that be cool? And put high and mighty humans in their place, the way hurricanes and ice storms and earthquakes shake our real-world superiority, law and order, and daily routines and systems. Combine that with some rainbow-hued dawn and dusk mists I saw in the real world, notably at Niagara Falls in my home province of Ontario, where they spice up the mists on summer evenings with a projected light show, and the Storm Talons were born.
Well, we've talked about Storm Talons. Do we have anything we can give the viewers so they can learn about it in depth?
Of course we do. And it's all in this week's giveaway.
That's right. This week is not one, but 2 ebooks completely free. 2. No strings attached. Buy 2 books absolutely free, but only for a very limited time. From September 18th to September 23rd, you can get Words of Unbinding by Ed Greenwood and Not As They Appear by Kat Jarrett and J.R. Jarrett for free, and a cat for free too. If you buy first, you can get this cat that is on the table while we are trying to film.
They don't need to buy something else to get all the stuff for free?
No. This week, when they go to the page, they can put the package in their cart and check out without paying a dime.
Can't get much better than that.
Yes, we all like free stuff. Just one more thing before we go. A question was asked by viewer Wednesday Toys about our last week's broadcast. Wednesday Toys asked, zombies as monsters and villains? With so much more variety than I thought, it begs the question, what goes into making a great villain?
Ah, a great question. I find that the best villains have some sort of mystery about them, or at least surprise. And they are recurring villains. We see them, or their handiwork, for a while before any open confrontations with the good guys. So we can speculate as to who they are, and why they do what they do. And there should be a good, to them, an interesting reason or reasons why they do what they do. From revenge to a mad desire to rule the world or personally destroy a hero or achieve some twisted end goal like giving us all gills or eyes on stalks. And they should be smart, not reckless bumbling idiots, so they can have reckless bumbling idiots working for them. So we fear what they can do and consider them formidable foes. And they should be personally interesting, perhaps even having quirks or personal traits that we can admire or be fascinated by. Perhaps we can sympathize with what they're trying to do, just shudder at the means they're willing to employ to achieve it. So, smart, recurring, and mysterious are the big 3. It doesn't hurt if they're scary or funny and have something physically outstanding, from disfigurement to monster limbs or shape-shifting or just stunning beauty, either. Great villains are usually more interesting and colorful than the good guys.
And not to mention the twirling mustache.
Yes, forgot that. But we've talked long enough, and I don't want to give any supervillains who are watching this any useful ideas. So, goodbye until next week.
Farewell for now. Come back next week for more about TEGG.